Jiws, welcome. How you doing?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad, self.
Good, yeah. Just been for a little run, so nice start to the day.
Yeah, not too bad. I'll go on mine after. Not run, bike.
Good luck. All right, mate. Just looking at introduction, 319 goals. Am I right there? 319. You all know exactly how many you've scored in the Welsh Prem, I'm sure.
Yeah, I probably need to try and claim a few more now.
319 in 467 games. So some going, some records. If we look back at the top scorers in the league, we've seen many, all different types. Towards the end, we'll go and look at nature and nurture, whether you think it was just in you to score goals or whether you think you developed your game and whatever you did along the way helped you. So we'll touch on that right at the end. But some record, obviously leading goal scorer, 2-time Golden Boot, and a player of the season as well, team of the season. I don't know exactly how many clubs you had, but I had a look yesterday. There's a few on that list. If we ran through them all, we'd be here for a while. But if we look at early days, from the start of your first memories of football, how old were you and what made you get into football?
Well, it was just very young age, really, in Llanberis. A little village in Gwynedd where, in those days, you didn't have your Xbox, your PlayStations. I think it was like Commodore 64, Atari, Sinclair Spectrums, and they were quite few and far between around the houses. There was no Wi-Fi. I think we only had 3 channels on the TV, so not much to do indoors. So you constantly, outside playing and climbing trees, playing tag and football, and irritating some neighbours by playing outside their houses and banging balls into the cars and windows and stuff. But no, it was just that kind of thing, and that's what I used to see around the village, people kicking the football around, and used to be football in the winter, then we turned to cricket then in the summer. So it's one of those, you just go on what you see. And my dad was managing the local village team as well, so I used to go obviously watch them on a Saturday, watch Llanberis on a Saturday. So all stemmed from there, really.
Who are you following? What teams did you support? Players at the time that you were looking up to and looking at, for the influence,
it was, supporting Liverpool, even though the rest of the family supported Everton. So I went either way. My granddad was a Liverpool fan as well. So so it was Liverpool, and because of the Welsh connection, you had Ian Rush, obviously one hell of a goal scorer for club and country, and Kenny Dalglish was there at the time, late 70s, early 80s, so I supported him, in the good era, and he looked up to the way Ian Rush was playing, and especially scoring goals. So you look when he was playing around, with your mates and stuff, some wanted to be, the Evertonians wanted to be Graham Sharp or Andy Gray. We wanted to be Dalglish or Rush. Unless you were in goal, you were Grobler or Southall. So it was that kind of environment how we were coming up against. So yeah, obviously Ian Rush, and obviously following Liverpool and the Welsh national team.
Yeah, good times then. Liverpool, Everton, they were very, very close, weren't they? It was like early memories of the FA Cup final and things. Ian Rush, what a player, Seeing him, meeting him a few times as well. I'm sure you have. Great bloke, real top striker at the time. But it wasn't just his goals; it's how he worked, and he just really closed down, didn't he? And he was just an all-round team player. And Dalglish, silky, and what a lovely touch, and both players to play in the same team. And I'm sure Liverpool fans were privileged to watch them at the time. So, yeah, being Liverpool fan as well, I can relate to that. So, if you look at a spell in your career, sort of growing up in your early days, which time do you feel you were most confident going onto the pitch, thinking, I'm just going to score here? Or was that a trait of yours where you just thought, do you know what? I'm a natural finisher. I just go and, I just go and get on the end of things. When did you feel you're most comfortable?
I think growing up in a little village and, playing for a little village team, from into 12s up to the 16s, because you were playing, like the stronger teams from the Carnarvon area, 2 or 3 teams in Carnarvon, and they were always stronger, and used to get battered by those teams. 9 times out of 10 used to get battered, so you weren't getting much chances or opportunities, and against those teams you played, village against the village teams, it was a bit more sort of a level playing field, but it was good. I learned a lot from getting beat every week, not being consistently winning and winning 8-9-0 and things like that, like it used to be in junior football in those days. So, but I don't know, really, I just enjoyed playing football. Like I said, there's nothing much else to do around where we lived, so it was just constantly outside, outdoors playing, football, cricket, tennis. So it was, I'm playing. So I was quite fortunate that, my dad allowed me to go training with, the first team when I was 14 every week in the gym on a Wednesday, indoor 5-a-side and gym. So, playing against senior players indoors and, doing the old-fashioned sit-ups, press-ups, the monkey bars and, circuit training every week, that helped you along as well. So, but I think in terms of being comfortable, I was probably about 15 and then I broke my leg.
Right.
And according to my dad, I was supposed to go on a couple of trials somewhere I'd never been before. So, saying Leeds were after me, and whether that was true or not, I don't know. So, mate of mine in school, late tackle in the local derby, broke my leg. And, looking back, that made me a bit stronger because the crutches in those days were up to your armpits, the wooden ones. So it made you fill out a bit and a bit stronger up, physically at the top. So so that helped me along, and then I just got back into it then, and I was fortunate enough that I played senior football at 15, 16, and that helps you along and strengthens your character. And when you're growing up in a village, you want to play for your village team. I did that, but my dad wasn't happy playing me because he thought that people would thought it was favouritism, playing your own son. So he shipped me out to another village team on the island. So that helped as well. So, but yeah, I just enjoyed football. I didn't even I didn't think of how far it would take me. I was just enjoying the game and enjoying playing, and it was just growing up with your mates and enjoying football and training, and I said there wasn't much else to do really.
Yeah. So the next step, when you thought, you've got a chance of earning some money from playing football, what were those steps? What was, obviously you played Welsh Premier, but you also played second division English football. Did you play in the first division?
Yeah.
With Stockport, is that right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we were getting paid in Llanberis, when he was 16, a couple of quid a game, and I used to go towards the end of the season trip to Dublin. It wasn't much, they were getting, but it was, in those days you paid for the trip, and you might have, depending on how many games you played, you might have had a couple of quid over for a pint of Guinness. But then I signed for Porthmadog then, and I think I was 17, and I think we went up to £7 a game. So it was like everyone was just getting cash handed out by Amelia in the changing room. And then when the Cymru Lions kicked off, I think that and the Welsh Premier League in '92, obviously because of the travelling down south in mid Wales, they you started earning more money. But I nearly packed it in with Porthmadog. I think it was the first season. I don't think, no. It could have been the second season, I think, of the Welsh Prem. But I was fed up of playing on the wing or left midfield. So I wanted to play as a striker. But in those days, you can sign dual registration. so he could sign for another team. So I signed for my dad's team to help out. You know, I think 2 or 3 of us did in the village. So Colin Senior and Geraint Chops, we signed for Llanberis on second forms, and played midweeks and stuff for the start and end of the season for them. And I'd had enough, and I didn't go to training. One Tuesday night, I said to Amelia, I'm not training. I'm not going to train, and I'm going to play. My dad wants me to play for Llanberis, so I'm going to play the game. So luckily he was away on holiday. So being a school teacher, he got in touch with me then on a Thursday morning and said, "Are you only training tonight?" I said, "No, I'm not coming." I said, "I'm fed up of playing on the wing." I said, midfield. And but he, to be fair to him, I owe him a lot, because he said, "Just persevere, you'll get a chance." And it's up to you then. So within a fortnight, got my chance to play up top, and I didn't look back from there. Dave Taylor was playing as well. He was the main striker. So then I think after Christmas, he won the Golden Boot that year, and I think we were going, toe to toe for a number of goals we scored post Christmas, and that alerted Bangor then. Amelia got the sack, and I wasn't happy the way he was treated by the club, but the club offered me more money to stay than Bangor offered me to go there. So a lot of people at the time thought I'd gone to Bangor for the money, but I didn't. I just seen the carrot of European football, because they just won the league in the '94 season. So Nigel Atkins phoned me up, and in those days you had to have so many Welsh players playing in European games. So I thought, I'd been to Bangor before, I think the first season of Welsh Prem, pre-season, and I didn't get a look in a sniff. And then I went back to Porthmadog. So I thought, because of the ruling, I'll get my chance in Europe, and it's up to me then what I do. So to be fair again, Nigel Atkins backed me, and like I said, I signed for a lot less money there than I did. I was offered at Porthmadog, and people thought I'd gone to Bangor for the money, which I didn't. I just went to play. I wanted to play European football, and have a taste of that, and that's what took me to Bangor. And again, Nigel Atkins was a big part of that. He sold me a dream, to be honest.
What was he like, Nigel Atkins, back then as a young manager?
Yeah, obviously, I think he'd come in, I think a third way into the season when Paul Rowlands went to Altrincham Brink, and he guided him to the title, and he just let you get on with what you were doing well. He trusted your ability. I quickly formed a partnership with Frankie Mottram, who was one of the best strikers in the league. And I thought because Frankie was there, I wouldn't get a chance, but Nigel thought, yeah, with 2 wingers, 2 strikers, we can. And we took the league by storm that season. I'm surprised that no one took a punt on Frankie, in the Football League. Yeah. Because he'd done well this previous season, he was doing well the same season. And I was just fortunate enough that, I did a good season, and, clubs started to take notice. Oldham was one, Wrexham was another. Went up to Oldham for a trial, did well there, but they didn't quite think it was ready for championship level. So they said they just keep an eye on me. So, I was lucky enough then to get a break. Stockport County, which, I didn't think would come around.
What about your time there then? How did that differ from playing with the players in the Welsh Prem, the setup, things like that? How did it differ in general?
Yeah, and I thought I wouldn't get a chance, because Hereford had come in the week before asking me to go there on trial, and because obviously part-time I was working in the Welsh office, doing admin stuff, and they wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't let me take time off. So then Stockport came in, I think it was the night before deadline day, like 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and I was about to go and play for the local pub team in the pool league. So I agreed terms with Stockport. Nigel phoned me and said, "Stockport, we're going to phone you now." So I agreed terms with them, went out to play pool, and then I had to travel there Thursday morning. So I went to work, and my lineman said, "No, having time off. I said, I'm just leaving. So I left. I went up to see the main, well, the main man of the, in the Carnarvon office, and he said, yeah, fine, no problem, good luck, wish you all the best. So, I was lucky that he let me go. He didn't want me to work my notice or anything, so I was quite lucky. So, going there, I think I signed the same time as Peter Davenport. I think we were Danny Bergara's last two signings. I think the week after he got sacked. Whether he signed us or not, I don't know. But it took a while to get used to the fitness levels, really, because I'd only been used to training twice a week, playing on a Saturday, to go and training sort of every day. And I think it helped because it was end of season, and Stockport didn't have a chance of going down or into the playoffs. So, I just bedded in with reserves, trained, and then I think 3 or 4 of us had signed. I was 22 at the time, and signed in as 3 or 4 young lads who hadn't broken into the first team, so they got us in over the summer to work with a conditioning coach. Yeah. We were in 3 days a week doing upper body weights, lower body weights, another day, cardio. So, that helped through the summer. We had time off as well, but then, it allowed you to hit pre-season a bit fit, or for myself, a bit fitter and stronger, even though I was still behind the goalkeepers in the long distance running.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me, to be quite honest. But if we look at the quality of the defenders and your movements and your getting to the box and your know-how, going from Welsh Prem and things like that, League of Wales back then, what were the differences? Were the defenders bigger, stronger, quicker, brighter, sharper? What did you find the differences were?
Yeah, it was. I think I played a couple of games with the reserves, and I hadn't scored, and Dave Jones, who was a reserves manager at the time, and he took over then after Danny Bergara left. Obviously went on to manage Wolves, France, and Cardiff. He gave me a tip. He said, you can't afford to take a touch in the box at this level, or not an extra touch.
Yeah. And
then from then on, I thought, I just did things a lot quicker and sharper in the box.
Instinctively, yeah.
Yeah, rather than having, taking a touch and trying to make sure. And then, the next game, I think I scored a hat-trick. So, for the reserve, so it was a good tip that I had, off him, and something always stuck in my mind, and something I try and pass on now to the lads strikers I'm coaching myself. So I remember when we won the league with TNS, that game in Carmarthen, that night in Carmarthen, I think Tony Pennick was in goal, and he said, I didn't expect you to hit that first time, that goal that won us the league. So because he thought I'd take a touch for him to set himself, and obviously we didn't have that time. So that stuck in my mind then throughout my career, that you can't afford to take that extra touch in the box, because against better defenders you'll be closed down quicker.
So other managers or coaches give you any little tidbits, any guidance, or have you just been in that box and creating chances? Like you say there, you've taken something from a manager and then made it work for the rest of your career. Anybody else give you any?
Yeah, Graham Sharpley, when I went back to Bangor, then things didn't quite work out with Stockport, because I was playing left back. I think I signed in March, and by October I was playing left back.
Working your way backwards, yeah.
Working my way back at a young age, yeah. But it was good. I enjoyed it because obviously there was that level. Alan Armstrong was up top for Stockport, Ian Helliwell, and all. So they had obviously a big and a smaller guy up top, and Andy Much had signed, and he's been prolific with Wolves. Aidy Mike had come from Man City, so there was a lot of strikers at the club. So because I strengthened over the summer, I was probably one of the quickest of the club. So they thought I was better off playing as a winger. And then after a couple of months, said, you better attacking from deep. So they put me further back, as left back. So, I had a handful of games.
You're not going to enjoy that, are you? Let's be honest.
I did enjoy it, to be honest, because I think the 4 games I played, in the first game, I don't think we conceded a goal. I think I enjoyed it, but I thought this could be the new position, and you treated him more like a utility player, which was handy in those days because you only had 3 substitutes on the bench, and one of those had to be keeper. So to get in the squad, it was a lot harder to get in the match day squad in those days. So being quite flexible, play up top, play in the wing, left back, even played one game as right back for the reserves. So it was quite flexible. That was on the bench quite a few times. If it wasn't in the starting 11, I made it into the bench because of some flexibility.
Okay.
But so Graham Sharp, I'm back to playing up top then. But when I went back to Bangor and Graham Sharp took over, he was quite influential as well. And you look up to someone, the career that he'd had.
Yeah.
Fantastic with with Everton and Scotland. Man, he was at Oldham, in fact, when I went on trial. And I had good feedback from that trial at Oldham, and he was down to earth. Even though when you met him, you were in awe of him because of the legend that he was for Everton and stuff, and he helped you along. When you were getting dropped, he explained why you were getting dropped. This is what you need to do. So he was quite influential in the way he was managing players, and the tips that the guidance he was giving you as a striker. So that I've been quite fortunate in that respect, that I've had some good guidance along the way.
Yeah, exactly. You just talked there about such a player and how well he did in his career, and then as a striker yourself, you go on that pitch, you want to do well and show him what you can do. I suppose it does rub off. We've all got people we look up to, haven't we? And when you're in his presence, you want to do well, just like he did. Any other mentors along the way helped you along, maybe off the pitch as well? People that you'd speak to? I know your dad was a good football man, but anybody else?
No, I always spoke to my dad after every game, and he was quite a critic himself, but he did speak to us on the phone, and most of the time he was at the games anyway. But no, not really. Didn't speak to many, as in football in terms off the field. A lot of them you speak to, involved in football, and but when you look, Nigel Atkins, when he was, even Miller Owen at Porthmadog, he'd been a very good non-league player, conference level, and again, he was something that you listened to. Yol Owen, who was the Welsh schools manager when I played for them at 17 and 18. Again, he was giving some good coaching advice, in those days, and but it's just one of those, you speak to your dad about what's going on, and he wanted the best for you, and not always agreed with what he was saying, but being pig-headed that I am, stubborn, but no, he likes it, Graham Sharp, and even at Halifax, Kieran O'Regan, he was quite a young manager, still player manager at the time, and for me, I thrived and flourished when managers let you get on with it, not trying to complicate things and trying to get you to do the other extra stuff, just let you get on with being a striker and scoring goals.
Okay, so we've talked about your spells. You had, I think it was 3 spells at Bangor, is that right?
I think it's about 6, by the end.
Right, okay, so I've had a look on the list there. There's Aberystwyth, there's Porthmadog, Newtown as well. And in between there, the TNS move. I think you'd done well at Aberystwyth previously. Was it the previous season? And how did that come about? How did coming to TNS come about, and your relationship with Kenny?
Well, funnily enough, I played with Kenny Mac. We were strike partners when Graham Sharp was manager of Bangor. So he came in with Ulster. So, he was, good 10, 12 years older than me at the time. And, he'd been prolific, and with Conway, and again in, non-league circles, with been an excellent striker. So, you know, as I knew Kenny, and you know, obviously bumping into him, and he tried to sign me when I had that season at Bangor when I won the Golden Boot and, you know, the league record. You know, that following season I went for talks and he signed for TNS. Then I went to Southport instead. And then I think it was Gary Finlay that, you know, said that he'd left, he'd been either resigned or sacked as manager about Aberystwyth. I went for the job, I didn't get the job, but they wanted me to stay on as assistant to Dave Burrows. And even though I was great mates with Buzzer because we played Welsh colleges and Welsh schools together, you know, I felt because I'd gone for the job, I didn't want to be an assistant. So I was told to check my contract at Aberystwyth, and it was, you know, when you get your contract, you get one date to the front and another date to the back, and they didn't correspond. So I got in touch with the Welsh FA and said, when's my contract run out? And he said, it's expired in June. Okay. Oh, because I was going to play for Aberystwyth on a Saturday in the first league game. And I thought, oh, hang on. And then obviously Gary Finlay noted McKenna that I was at our contract. So he said, do you want to come here? And I said, but I can't pay you. I said, oh, that's not good to me, I said.
So yeah, let's just butt in there. So obviously rumours were coming to the club, but there was no pay. You go and do well, and we'll see what happens. Now I don't know if that's true. I don't know, but that's obviously what we players. That's what we heard, and that's what the story was. You know, knowing full well the chairman, it'd have been a great deal for him. You come in, score a few goals, I'll give you a few quid. So do you want to just elaborate on it?
Yeah, that's what happened. Because I was a bit peed off for the way Aberystwyth had dealt with that contract, and you know, whether they were thinking, oh, we'll, you know, try to pull a fast one. If he doesn't do well, we can say, oh, your contract's finished and stuff, because they had a 2-year contract. But they were fine, you know, the club were fine, understood that there was an error on their part, and it was an opportunity to go back to full-time football. So again, I'd gone back into obviously employment, and I think it was 2 years into my sports science degree at the time. So I thought, you know, important here, you know, education wise. So I thought if I'm going back full time, I'd have more time on my hands rather than working 9 till 5 and doing a degree plus playing part-time football. So I'd have more time on my hands. But I said, you know, 2 little young kids. So I thought I'll give it a go. So Kevin said, I can't pay you. I said, right, because John also did that I was out of contract as well at Real, and obviously they were the champions at the time. So he'd come in, and then I said, right, I'll do a month for you, I said, without pay, and see where we go. And he said, fine. So as he came in, and like I said, I was on a bench for a couple of games. I think I scored in the second game against Aberystwyth coming on. And then, you know, going to the team then, and, you know, start scoring goals. And then John Knowles put 7 days in because he knew I hadn't signed the contract. And then that's what, and Mike Harris got
that's forced his hand
a bit twitchy, yeah. And to this day, he's, oh, you played for me for free for a month. And but, you know, that's what, you know, got the contract then. And, you know,
that just shows, you know, your confidence in your own ability. You know that you'll go there. Yes, you just talked about young family and stuff you need to provide, but that's a trait of yours, knowing full well, you just used the word big-headed and whatever else before, talking about your dad, but you know how good you were, you knew what you could have done, you know the league inside out, so really you were just thinking, it's about when I get in the team, with the quality that we had at the time, I was going to score goals. It was really a decision that was always going to work in your favour, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I thought, you know, and I thought as well that, you know, good friends with, you know, with Marc, and, you know, he'd stumbled. I think Barry had picked you one year, you know, a couple of years before, then Rill, and I thought, you know, he's on borrowed time here, you know, as a manager. Like if he doesn't win the league this year, you know, so he took a gamble as well, because I was 31 as well, and got injured towards the end of my previous season at Aberystwyth, so didn't play as many games. So probably he took a gamble as well. So he knew what the type of player I was, because I played up top with him, and he worked in his favour, and and my favourite, to be honest, allowed me then that time with the family, plus to to complete my sports science degree.
Yeah, good period at TNS Force at the time. 2 years you were there. 2 years. I think 63 goals in 60 games, was it? Or 60 and 63, something like that. So, very good record for me playing with you. It was a time where you were partnering Wildy as well, some games, weren't you? He said he did most of your running into wide areas, would do the work, would bully the centre backs, clip a ball in, and you'd be there to put it in. But that's a younger forward doing the work for you, isn't it? So yeah, the amount of times that I'd play behind you, look to get a set, and you just spin, turn, have a shot, and I'd be like, "Are you sure?" Like, you know what I mean? Set me the ball, or and for one player that would just continue to just take advantage of the keeper off his line, or a 40-yard shot. Now, I'd seen enough of those goals to go in, so I had to give you a little bit of a bit of leeway on that. But confidence-wise, what a confidence player! On your game, we get the ball to you, wide positions, put it in the box. 9 times out of 10, you score. It's to have a goal scorer in a team like that, but also someone up front that's working with you. It was perfect, wasn't it? In a team of young, energetic players that could create and assist goals for you. Must have been perfect at the time for you.
Yeah, and I'll get a bit of stick, Wildy, probably Paul Roberts as well, that, they did all Stormer running, probably Sharp a couple of times with him. There's a few strikers towards the end that said, I did all his running, but, I had to do that. It's like an apprenticeship, really,
Of course it is.
I remember I had to do with, I remember Halifax and, playing for Halifax in the Football League, and Sister Manager said, you're one of the best players I've seen closing people down, and the younger and desire. And, I was only 25, 26 at the time. So, I have done it, not that probably that often in the Welsh Prem. You had to work hard, up top with Frank, with Kenny Mac, because, he was 38, there wasn't much legs, left on him. He always wanted balls to his feet or, in the box. So, he wouldn't run the channels at that age. It was just a battle with him. So, I've had to do it myself, so I do understand the frustration and, that.
Very much tongue in cheek. If you weren't scoring the goals, then I'm sure everyone would be, saying why you're still playing, but you weren't. You were scoring the goals, you were banging them in, you were clinical, you were like a predator. So I think it is pretty much tongue in cheek, and like you say, it's an apprenticeship, isn't it? You've done it, they've done it, and it worked.
I think it's one of those where, as you get older, you understand the game and a bit more. Yeah. I remember Melia telling me, I think it was 17, 18, I was chasing back, it was a striker back to our own box, and he said, "I don't want you back here." He said, "By the time the ball gets in the box, you're knackered."
Yeah.
So towards the end of the game, you're fatigued, and then that's why when I want you are your sharpest, towards the end of games when defenders are tired and you're a bit sharper. And, again, he took those little snippets of managers on board, and it's one of those where, and as you get older, you do understand, the game a bit better. So you don't need to do as much running, you don't need to be looking busy, because if you look busy, you're not doing anything.
Same as training. In the week, you'd train at left back, you'd have the bobble hat on, you'd have like 3 layers on. We'd have the team at the end, and you'd be playing left back, and you just say, "Don't come near me, I'm going to get the arm out." You just push it to the side, get the arm out, and like, "Well, aren't you going to go and bang some goals in?" It was like, don't need to. On a Saturday, I know where the goal is. Training wise, you probably conserved your energy, didn't you, for the week, and then ready for a Saturday, ready for Friday. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, I thought, if you looked at him trained and you weren't scoring in training, it'd have a knock-on effect on your confidence for the weekend. And I thought, well, I'll go and play a different position, try and learn a bit of defensive side of the game, and have a bit of fun as well. But I remember, I think it was Neil Thompson, the York manager. He said, "There's no point in coming in training on a Friday. You don't do anything." I said, "I might as well give you a day off." He said, "You've got that non-league mentality." I said, "Well, yeah, I don't train. You don't train day for a game. I'm not in league. It's Thursday night, and then you rest up for a Saturday." But we didn't. Clubs didn't do much on a Friday anyway. But just getting set up for the following day. But yeah, I thought if you weren't scoring in training, etc., that even I see now all these drills being done shooting before a game. Strikers. For me, that would knock my confidence if I didn't put them in. Thinking, so I more natural than having to work on it. Yeah. So that's why training's probably changed over the last 15, 20 years. The way clubs adopt more scientific approaches, and it was more old school in those days. And you had a bit of fun out. You trained hard start the week, tapered off towards the end, and ready for the game on the weekend. So that's what I'd grown up, and the clubs I've been involved in trained hard Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then you were just tapering off, ready to be fresh and sharp on a Saturday.
Okay, if we go current Welsh Prem at the moment, then we've got big weekend coming up. Obviously, 2 points in it, 1 game to go. Are you going to hang your hat on? Who would you say? Let's have a prediction. Who do you think is going to win it?
I think be a few twists and turns, I'd imagine, on Saturday lunchtime, similar to what happened in the Championship and the weekend. But I think I can see TNS scoring the first goal, to put more pressure on Connors Key. I'm at the TNS game on Saturday. But for all the banter's gone on over the last year about Connors Key being plastic champions, never winning on the field of Mike Harris, it would be good to see Connors Key win it, just to see what his reaction will be. Because I know we all know what his reaction will be if TNS win the league. Connors Key aren't going to live it down. But looking at the first game of the split, I did the Penabont Connors Key game at Connors Key, and to be fair, Penabont played Connors Key their own game and come out with a 2-0 win.
Yeah.
Can they do that again? Is it another question? You get these one-off results where Penabont have played well. I think they played well against when you were at TNS before Christmas. I think it was 2-1. They might got a goal disallowed last minute, if I recall. They've always done well against Connors Key, I think.
Yeah.
So that could be, a sniff for TNS then. But then they haven't got an easy tie, have they? They've got Bala, in a good run of form. They beat Connors Key a couple of weeks ago. So it's going to be tough. I think, Carl will want to go out on winning ways, close that gap on TNS in second. So he'll want to finish in a high, before the lads go off then for a little break before returning to European football. So it's going to be tough for both. It's not, and that's what's good about the split. The league splitting in half. That in the second half of the season, there's no easy games in that top 6, which you've seen. Like Carnarvon went to TNS, got a 0-0 with 10 and then 9 men last minute. But Penabont's going to Connors Key, beating them. Bala beating Connors Key. So there have been, no one had envisaged TNS losing 5-1 at home to Connors Key, in that game. So, I think there's been a lot of twists and turns over the last month since the split. And I think there's going to be a lot again, on Saturday. So it'll be good to watch.
Yeah.
Good to watch.
Exciting. Last day of the season. not been a while since that happened. I think we had it at Aberystwyth away a few years ago, long time ago, where it was decided either the game before or the game right at the end of the season. But yeah, it's
I think
it's the neutral.
Yeah, I think you go back to when Bangor beat themselves in
last
in
day as
Farrow
well.
Road. That was last day, and then I think the following year, I think you went to the last day again with Bangor. I think you battered them 4 or 5. That day. That was at Park Hall, but I think you're going back
like a while now.
10 years, 9 years since that's happened, because it's been quite comfortable for TNS. I think probably last year's would have gone down to the wire.
I believe that. Yeah, it's good for neutral. That's what they want to see in this league.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that will create interest on hopefully on Saturday, and I think one game's live on S4C and the other one's on Facebook Live. So both games, people can watch both games at the same time. So that'll be quite interesting.
Yeah. In terms of players this season who stood out for you, whether younger ones, more experienced, older ones.
You got to look at it. Yeah, you got to look at the experienced ones, and you're like Wild, he's had a great season. Imran Benner's reaching 200 goals. Ryan Brobble's had an impact since he's come back from injury for TNS. The younger ones, look at Dan Davis at Connors Key. First season.
Good player.
Welsh Prem, he's played different positions. He stood out for Connors Key, and he's probably up there for Young Player of the Year. Ben Clark's played well for for yourself, and now for the new manager. You look like some of the young lads I had with the Welsh schools. Jack Wilson, Ben Fawcett, Lee Jenkins, Aberystwyth. Dan Williams again, another one on loan from Cardiff. Sam Snaith. There's a lot of players that have done well. Younger players that hopefully won't have a second season syndrome, and continue to do well. But George has been commanding again at the back. For Connors Key. So there's quite a few players that have done well. This year as well. Nathan Peter had a good season. For Bala. Anthony Kay in midfield. So there are good players, but you're probably looking. Wild and Vendors have been again consistently playing well. Scoring goals week in, week out. Hopefully don't score too many more, and they start hanging their boots up.
Well, that's on record, mate. That's going to take some beating, that I tell you now, innit? So are we going to see another one come along? I can't see that. But if we look at top 3 players of all time, who are your 3 best?
Oh, tough one that. Not because you're on the call now, but you've got to be up there. It's great to play, could play in the same team, bit of fun off it as well. No, yourself, fantastic servant, to the league, fantastic player, player and manager. Look at Gary Lloyd, again, what he did for Barry, and, got into the Welsh squad. When he was at Barry, carried on with Llanelli and then with Carmarthen. You look at George, Rhys Griffiths, the list can go on and on. Aaron Edwards has been fantastic, for both TNS and Connors Key. So, you're probably looking top 3 yourself, Gary Lloyd, and probably Rhys Griffiths. Not a bad 3 there, defender, midfielder, and a striker.
If we look at aspirations for Marc Lloyd Williams, do you want to go into coaching, management, or have you settled at what you're doing and you just think, I'm happy with what I'm doing? I'm happy with my lot. But would you think I could do a job of coach, managing and things like that?
I think if you hadn't been for the media work, because as soon as I finished playing at Newton, the Welsh Prem, I helped Kalo and Lee out. I was in the media that season, and I think if that hadn't gone on, and I carried on doing that for the last 10 years, then I probably would have got into coaching and tried to get in with a club, in the Welsh Prem or, Cymru Lions or Cymru North. But, I'm quite happy nowadays, doing a Coleg Menai team, Welsh schools, Welsh colleges, national squads, but it's great to see that, a number of these players that, I've been coaching and managing over the past, 7 or 8 years that are now playing in the Welsh Prem consistently and doing well. It just gives me pleasure. Just you've given them a platform. We've got a good program of games. With the Welsh schools, colleges where the Centenary Shield, they play the likes of England, Scotland, the Republic of Northern Ireland. We go to Italy for a week and play, like national sides from Albania, Moldova. Not their schools or colleges, they put their full national sides in. Romania. So it's been good valuable experience for these players, and hopefully one that's held them in good stead and to progress and to to get them to where they are. But if the media work stopped, then I think I'm again to an age where I want to be. And yourself, it's not Tuesday, Thursday, turn up on a Saturday anymore. It's sort of a 24/7 job. Looking at players, analysis, doing the sessions. So you're constantly having to do something. Sort of 6-7 days a week, and I might that time, may have passed me by. Again, you never know. You never say no. So I could have a change of heart in 3 or 4 years' time.
If it's always been in years, getting towards the end of your career, that I'd like to do that. I'd like to give it a go. But then you've obviously been doing well with your commentary, your media work, going to watch games. You're always at different games, aren't you, as well? So that sort of suppresses it for a while. But if it's in you to coach, manage whatever level, whatever age group, that's always an option for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the beauty of being involved. Doing a college team, you see a lot of players, in the 18 and the 19 level, and you're constantly checking out for where they're playing for now, how many have gone on. Same with the national schools and colleges squad. Where they're playing, how many in the Welsh Prem, how many have gone on to maybe Football League. So, and like you say, I'm constantly, normally 1 game a week, Welsh Prem level. So you're keeping your eye in and keeping your hand in with, watching games, players, speaking to managers, coaches. I speak a lot, to some of the academy coaches, especially up north anyway, especially with the schools and colleges squads that, who they've got coming through. So you're constantly, in and around, the Welsh, pyramid system. So, again, it's one of those, if the media stops, I might rethink, and do I go watching games, or do I go, get involved and get, maybe not as a manager, but just as a coach, and, use your experience and expertise in a different way.
Good. Just a few more things. And so we go back to nature and nurture. For me, it's just natural for you as a goal scorer. There's certain players that have had to work at it. You look at the Prem now, and people like Jamie Vardy has had to work and work and work. That's nurtured. Nature. There's people like Lionel Messi. Messi's.
Yeah.
It's just in him. Maradona. Those type of players. So I would say that you'd probably agree with me that you had a knack of scoring goals. You worked towards becoming a better player, but it was already in you that if you got chances, you'd, all sorts of goals, 30-yarders, 1-yard tapping, but always being in that right place. Always got the know-how to score goals. Would you agree with me there?
Yeah. I think he's got to be, he's one of those where game management, for me, I looked at it as that, as you get, that when he said, I don't want you doing too much defending because you'll be tired, so you're fatigued, so you're not sharp at the box. For Mailer, managers letting you play. Dave Jones saying you can't afford to take the extra touch. Those little kinds of things stick in your head, and they help you along, on your journey. But for me, I always thought that, playing on a, senior pitches, that goal doesn't change size from one pitch to another. The size of the 18-yard box and 6-yard box is the same. If you played in Faroe Islands or Timbuktu, the pitches will be the same. So it's knowing where you are in the field and your pitch geography. So I just thought wherever I am, either back to goal or where you are, within the box or outside the box where that goal is. And I think I wasn't coached how to score goals. I've never been coached. I don't think you can coach someone.
So that answers the question. That answers your question.
That's my view. I think you've either got it or you haven't. You might give him advice, but I think, there's a lot of things about, the more practice you do, the better you get. For me, it could work the other way, where if you're not scoring goals in training, your confidence could drop and, you might not be doing the thing. So for me...
Just on that one then, any spells in your career where you didn't score maybe in 1 or 2 or 3 goals, games, sorry, and how did you adjust that? How did you react to that? Little dry spells, barren spells in your career?
Yeah, I think I did a barren spell first season at Bangor with Nigel Atkins. I went about 8 or 9 games without scoring. Because it's
you stay in the side? Winning. Did he keep you in the side?
Yeah. And that was the, he just said, don't worry about it. Don't try too hard. It'll come. It'll be deflect. It'll hit you and go in. So that kind of thing.
His belief in you was enough for you to then go, I'll tell you what then, well, if he believes in me, it'll come. And then it does come, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's it. You got to, it was the same when you were going for that 300th goal. I think I didn't score in 4 or 5 games, missed a penalty. And Ashley Morris said, you don't want to be 300th as a penalty. So yeah, not a bad, great save though. And but so it's one of those where you think too much about it, so you want it to come straight away. With 200 and 250 out, I think I wasn't aware of. I think I might have been aware of 200 second half and with TNS, but but it wasn't in the back of your mind. But 300, I think, when's it going to come? And so, because cameras were at every game waiting for you to score that goal, because we didn't have a camera at every game then. So there was just selecting games. But so it's just belief in it. Someone's got a belief in you that you will score goals, and then it'll just come. And that's all you need. It's just someone to believe in your ability, and that's what happened when I was at Bangor with Nigel Atkins, with Graham Sharp, at Halifax with Kieran O'Regan. I had barren spell with Halifax, but then funnily enough they sent me to do extra training, not goal scoring but running. Because I was shocking at long distance running. Every club I went to, the keepers were always, they were always at the back, but I was further behind. And Halifax, I thought, fell in the canal, I was that far back.
And that can be seen as a laziness, but me knowing your personality, you're not built for long distance running. You're more short, sharp, like you said, when you were younger, closing down. You need to know how to close down. You need to know how to do it, and your makeup allows you to do that. Yeah,
because your game as a striker wasn't about, okay, you need the basic level of cardiovascular fitness, I agree, but if your game was more short, sharp, 10, 15, 20-yard bursts, then when they thought it was a different player. When went on the football field and started doing short and sharp stuff, again at Halifax was in front of the queue and thought, bloody hell, where's he come from? Not the same one. There was we thought of falling in the canal, because we were that far behind. But it's one of those things where if you've got a manager that believes in your ability, then as a player it does help you enormously.
Of course.
You know, and when a manager doesn't believe in you, that's when you start getting, or a new manager comes in, you know, and they don't believe in what you can do, you know, you start, you know,
questioning, affecting you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Before we wrap it up, got a few questions, but you still liking a few glasses of red and the Indian food? Is that your Saturday night staple, or?
Oh yeah, that's, you know, it's been 3 years, isn't it? You know, the red wine and the you know, red lips and stuff.
Red lips, coming on the
purple lips.
way back from away trips, it would be you'd be on the wine. I don't think I've ever seen you with a beer. You obviously have drunk beer, but it would always be a bottle of red, and then we'd have a few beers. It was a good drinking crew on the back of the TNS bus. We'd also go out and have a few more beers in Shrewsbury, like to me and John, and then you'd have Evo going off to Wrexham. You'd have your bottle of red, and then you'd go off and get your Indian takeaway, take it home to the family, to Heidi.
Yeah. It was, nothing's changed there in terms of the, you know, the red wine and Indian on the Saturday nights, but yeah, it was good days, and that's what made me enjoy football, because I don't know whether the culture is still the same now.
Culture. I would say the culture back then, there was more of a, I don't like to use the terminology old school, but there was certainly for me, more characters, and it was allowed more, whereas it is more professional now. The leagues come on, there's better coaches, there's better players, the standards are higher, but I still think there's room for a little bit of camaraderie and team spirit and culture like we used to have, because that certainly bonded us and gelled us together, didn't it, as a team?
Yeah, and I think you need that, you know, when you're coming back from a 4.5, 5 hour, you know, bus trip from Halford West or Carmarthen or Cardiff, you know, and I think I remember we had a game called off in South Wales on Sunday. We were supposed to be playing, and we stayed in Swansea. It was called off, and we stopped in Ryder, I think. No, not Ryder.
Supposed to be Carmarthen. Kalo said, right, we're going to have a few beers. We stopped off, and it was like, great. Phoning other people to pick us up on the way back, and it got us together, didn't it?
Yeah, I made a few quid out of the pool, me and Kalo, killer pool, you know, hustling. But yeah, you know, those kind of things. And I think, you know, the red wine started, I think it was with Kenny Mack when we were at Bangor and Sharpie, you know, they were on the red wine LC, so I joined in with them. My dad he loved it, you know, a glass or two of red as well. Yeah. So, you know,
he was a good bloke, mate. Remember your dad well, good follower of lots of football, lots of different teams, doesn't he?
Yeah, he got me onto the red wine, and, you know, in my younger days, and, you know, so, you know, when I seen Sharpie and Mac and them drinking, I thought I might as well join them. And also
got a quiet taste, and then followed it on, yeah.
Yeah, you know, you might as well, and, you know, and I think it is, yeah, you know, great laughs, especially, you know, Marc, Gary Wiggins, you know, the old school there at Bangor. We had Dave Barnett, you know, but you know, great crack on the back of the best. You know, same with TNS with Evo and, you know, yourself, Johnny Lear, you know, name a few, Kingy, you know, Nails. You know, I know you're doing one of these and Nails as well, but you'll be moaning throughout it, no doubt. Yeah.
You like to whinge, didn't he?
MC for you. Quicker, Jiws, quicker. But you know, it was great fun, and, you know, and I think he played football for that social side, and, you know, you got so many friends, you know, once you finish playing, and, you know, you look back and think, oh, you know, good times you had at every club, and, you know, the camaraderie, you know, on and off the field. And, you know, like I said, I don't know whether it's the same now. I think they all come on the bus with a protein shake now rather than a bottle of beer, you know, because that, you know, they've gone that serious in sports science. So, you know, there is room for, you know, a bit of a social, and, you know, I think it plays a part in, you know, cohesion and, you know, success.
Yeah, good stuff. There's a few questions. I always like to get people's opinions, and if they say that there's a player, manager, person, because it's not just about the greatest players or coaches, it's about the people that have been the best in the last 25 years. That's what I'm trying to do, you know, speak to people who have enjoyed the Welsh Premier, who enjoy it. So there's 3 questions here. Sharpie's put, as we've just talked about earlier, about doing the running, why did you let he do all your running for you, and then you get all the credit for all the goals. So we've already discussed that. But if you want to go into any more detail there for Sharpie.
Yeah, I think we were real together, and he was young, when he young lad coming through, and I think he'd been unfortunate with injuries. I think prior to that season and getting back to form, and but like I said, it's part of the journey, and it's probably
we've touched on it.
Yeah, we've all done a striker, so I'd imagine he's done the same to younger strikers that he's played with as his career moved on.
We've got one from Michael Davis. Talk to us about your time in Norway. You had a spell in Norway for a few games. What was that like, and how did that come about?
Yeah, it was a Stockport, and like I said, I was playing left back, and then I think it was a couple of days before the season was finishing, beginning of May, I got a phone call saying, "Do you fancy going on loan to Norway as a striker?" I'm going, "Yeah, fine." I'm thinking, well, because I was out of contract at Stockport, so they said they'd give me the contract when I come back. So I thought, oh, that's good. So obviously I went over to Norway. I think FK Haugesund, they played Basankonski. I think they played in the UEFA Cup, the Europa League the last few years. So I went there, and it was a bit of a culture shock in terms of the cost of the pint,
yeah,
of the food. In those days, I think it was 96, was it? I think a pint was costing a £5 in those days. So 35 years ago, but it was there. But I went there, and they were in the championship, equivalent at the time, and they were top of the league. And I got there, and the two strikers started scoring. One scored hat-trick 1 week, then the other one's turned to score hat-trick, and so I didn't get quite a good run out of games there. And I thought, I'm not playing, I might as well just cut it short and and come back, because obviously the reason you went there was to play as a striker, and but I understood that the other two were doing well. You couldn't drop them. They went on to win the league, so got promoted to the Premier League in Norway, and I still on Facebook with 2 or 3 of the players now, and the chairman at the time, I think he had an oil company or something offshore there in Norway. So it was a lovely town, and that was a culture shock, because where we'd be off the day before a game, we didn't do much. Or the day after the game, sorry, they'd get you in to do a cool down, and they were doing a lot of plyometrics. So scientific wise, they were ahead of the game compared to full-time clubs in England. And even though they were a part-time club, they were training every day. So because in Norway, the lights, in the summer, hardly gets dark there. So we weren't training until 8 o'clock at night, but the lads were going to work. There's only me that was obviously full-time. So we were training more or less every night, and you're thinking, game on Saturday or Sunday, and then for a day off, but then, oh no, we're in tomorrow. Oh. And then you had to train with your pads on, which you didn't do back home. And it was quite intense training, and it was quite scientific, in terms of the conditioning stuff they were doing. So it was an eye opener. And also traveling, wherever you went to get a train, a bus, a boat, a plane, then back on a bus, another boat, because of the the geography of the country. It was quite there were quite long days if you were playing away games.
Change for you, though, I suppose, at that time in your career.
Yeah, it was, and things didn't work out. Stockport, they offered me, just a basic minimum contract when I returned. So I would have been, got more from non-league football, and that's what I did. I thought, I can't I can't live on what they're offering, so let's go out and get a job and go back into non-league for a couple of years when got a lucky break then. But it was a good experience, and obviously the referees were different to what they were in England. You could get away with a lot more over here than you would over there. So I think I got booked in every game for either chops in or late tackling. So they weren't taking any nonsense over there. But no, it was a good, it was an eye opener, and I was glad to see that the club have, we got promoted that year, and they had a bit of a dip in form, and it's good to see them back and doing well in the Premier League in Norway now.
Oh, good. Last question then. It's from Tommy Collins. Who was the best finisher at Portmaddock?
Oh, what in training?
Training, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, you had because to be fair to Amelia, because it was first team the reserves were training together in Portmaddock, and as there's a pitch as you come into the ground. Before you walk in behind the goal, so we used to train on there, and it was a mud bath and stuff like that. So we used to have 3 lads. I think it was Tommy Collins, a lad called Fish, and a lad used to call Harry On, and they thought they were the 3 strikers, the main 3 strikers, and it was fun. And to be fair, Fish was clinical.
Yeah. To
be fair, he was clinical, and Tommy Collins and Harry On thought they were clinical, but they're 2 left feet. Fish, he was quite, from the goal, he had an act of finishing, to be fair. But yeah, it was, again, good times, good fun, and it was one of those things where it was a community club, and really was happy to let players, come train, get fit, even if they just gone to the reserves, or if they played for Penryn or playing for Stiniog or someone, we'd let them come train, and these 3 were local lads down the road, and liked to train. They trained hard with us, and have a pint after on the station in after. But it was good crack.
Good stuff. Right, we'll wrap up there, mate. Thanks for your time. It's been really good. If we look at, for me, take-home messages, a record that's probably, is it ever going to be broken? I can't see it in the Welsh Prem. Lots of different clubs you've played for, and height-wise, size-wise, you're not a stereotypical centre forward. If you look at in leagues now, they look for tall, strong, big, powerful centre forwards. Your game is all about finishing. Your game is all about natural finishing. Not many 2 on the right foot. You got a few on the right foot. For your size, you got a few headers. To be fair, you had good timing. It's all about the delivery and stuff as well. But I think for someone single-minded, didn't let things get to them, knew how good they were, one of the best players, one of the best finishers, one of the best goal scorers the Welsh Premier's seen, mate. So good to talk to you. It was a pleasure to play with you for a couple of years as well, mate. Obviously, we keep in touch and stuff, so wish you all the best for the future, whatever you're going to do. And pleasure for having you on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sure your dress sense hasn't got any better than you.
I thought I dressed smart today, Don't.
Is that smart, is it?
Good lad.
But, yeah, good talk to you, mate. It's been hope it all goes well.
Speak to you soon.
All right, cheers, guys. Damn it.
Bye.